Hello, welcome back to Viola Land, where we try to teach you viola without taking any lessons. You've tuned up your instrument, you picked up your bow by holding it at the balance point, letting your hand be loose and just naturally go over the bow. You made sure that your thumb is in the form of a smiley face. You made sure your pinky is rounded. You are holding the viola like so. Practice having your wrist be straight. We're just picking up our instrument, making sure it is well settled between our chin and our shoulder. And then we're going to place the bow and just sort of do the exercise where we practice muscle memory, where we move the bow just enough to hit each of the strings. My bow is on the C string. Make sure it's just high enough to not hit the G string. When it's on the G string, make sure it's right in between the C string and the D string. When you're on the D string, make sure your bow is not hitting the G string or the A string. When you're on the A string, again, same as the C string, make sure that your bow is not hitting the side of your instrument. Just practice these positions. Every single time when you pick up your instrument, you're going to be working towards building that muscle memory, making sure that your bow is moving as little as possible to maximize efficiency, hence in the long run maximize speed. When you bow, have your arm extremely loose. Make sure the whole weight of your arm is being pulled down through gravity into the ground, and that is what's going to generate the force for you to make a sound on the string. If my viola weren't there, my arm is so loose, it would just go straight through the instrument, it would just fall to the floor, and that would be a sad day for the bow. It's important to get some finger memory in terms of how to hold your instrument. So just practice putting your instrument up and down and make sure that you can hold it without supporting it with your arm. And make sure your wrist is straight. Make sure this shoulder is down. Make sure your posture is nice and relaxed. And it should be really easy to just hold your instrument. It should be nice and secure. One nice exercise for practicing bow hold is actually just with one hand to just go up and down the bow like so, and maintaining the same sort of smiley face thumb shape. And also it helps to practice using the bow using any combination of two fingers and a thumb. You can practice bowing with the first and fourth finger. You can practice bowing like this, it's pretty hard. You can practice with these two fingers. And basically it just helps train in terms of finger strength in order to have more maneuverability in the bow. Let's say I'm just using these two fingers, I would go. Again, same principle applies. You're trying to make sure the bow is perpendicular to the string. You're using your whole arm. You're making this kind of motion where your wrist goes down, bends at the bottom of your bow stroke and bends up at the top of your bow stroke, and your shoulder and elbow are stationary. Your bow determines which string you're playing on. Your shoulder is always down and stationary, and your wrist determines where in the bow you are, at the top, at the bottom of the bow, bottom of the bow, top of the bow. It's very important, even without the bow, to just practice this motion. It's very graceful, and I like to think of it as just ducks swimming. they make this sort of motion with their feet, which is very efficient. Beginners tend to tense up, so everything in string playing is all about efficiency of motion, so you need to use gravity to your aid. If when you're just starting out, you learn to tense up, then once you start playing really fast passages, then you're just not going to be able to keep up. Versus if you were going like... One thing that beginners tend to do is they tend to use only part of the bow, and especially they tend to use just the top part of the bow, and this is because it is just easier to do so, because your muscles aren't yet trained to just go to the bottom of the bow and hold your arm up higher. Actually, string playing could be considered a sport because actually you burn a lot of calories. Yeah, so I just looked that up. How much should you practice? It's actually possible to get playing injuries, just like sports injuries, by practicing too much. This is why when you start playing, you should slowly work your way up to longer and longer practice sessions. At the start, I would recommend no more than 15 to 30 minutes. And even after that amount of time, you might be one of those people who your arm will feel really tired. And part of that is just that your body still hasn't learned to relax fully and not tense up while you're trying to play. But also, the muscles involved with playing will become stronger over time, and you'll be able to play for longer and longer periods without feeling fatigue. If you ever feel pain while playing, you should stop right away. The one exception to this is if you feel pain in your fingertips, because that means that you are developing calluses. At first, when you are playing, metal strings rubbing against your fingers will hurt after a while. Don't worry about it. The sooner your calluses come, the happier you will be.